soul food and all. The country folk.
All
Countrymen.
right, all right, all right. Anyway, so right. Yo, what up, what up, what up? Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Pnoid Dudes. Man, listen, I'm here with my nigga Dip, and we're going to have a conversation about a couple of things today because, like, I've had some shit that I've been mulling over inside of my head, and my nigga's been over here, you know what I'm saying, trying to argue his way out of a paper bag in my fucking Discord. You know what I mean? Talking about specialist versus generalist. I feel like this is all kind of tied together as far as things is concerned. And, you know, I think that, you know what I mean, we should have this conversation. You know what I mean? So, Dip, my nigga, generalist versus specialist. Explain to me, you know what I'm saying, your arguments and why it is you feel as though, like, you know what I mean, generalism is better than specialism.
All right. First and foremost, it begins more than just generalist versus specialist. My main argument that I say is the problem is over specialization. And there's a reason why generalists and specialists come to be, okay? For different things. And it goes into why you can say prefer and you look historically why generalists succeed, excuse me, more than specialists. Specialists require their a mastery on one specific thing or a few specific things, right? If you're a plumber or a master electrician, master carpenter, etc., and you can provide great service in that way, right? Or if you're, let's say, you're a football player, all you are is a tackle or something, or things like that. All you are versus the generalist, and it's usually different life experiences where you're forced to because of where you grew up geographically, the different life and work experience you have, to where you have to pick up different skills. If you think of the military, you can think of someone who's just a sniper versus maybe a special ops guy you would think special ops, he would be a specialist. No, he's a generalist. Like back in World War II, a Marine Raider, where he had to have some medical knowledge. He had to be able to survive on his own. He had to be able to work in a group. And that's the thing with the generalist. A generalist is someone who's highly adaptable to whatever life throws. He's a survivalist. When it comes to a specialist, they are great, but then you take them out of their field, they're a fish out of water. And we've all had that experience with people, right? They're great at what they do.
Well,
But
well,
then
isn't well,
sometimes,
isn't this the issue where, like, you know what I'm saying, if a place kind of like deindustrializes or like you lose like a large
yes,
piece like manufacturing, you end up with individuals who
yes,
were specialized in certain things, and
correct.
now, you know what
Or
I'm
tech.
saying,
We see it with
retraining
tech.
or retraining them is a very
Yes,
difficult thing. You know what I mean? This is kind of like,
yes.
you know what I mean, where this gets down to. You know what I mean? As far
Yeah,
as
we
like,
see it with tech today. We see it with tech today, in civilizations, and I talk about civilization being a mentality, more so rather than just a way that societies function necessarily. No, they don't. It's that civilizations, because they become so stable, you can say urbanization is part of it, but it's more so they push towards it in this current, specifically we're talking the modern era. They've made tech work to be super lucrative, and they've made a lot of manual labor and trade jobs to not be lucrative. It's very difficult to survive with those skills, honestly, or to be a chef or to be et cetera, which requires creativity as well as critical thinking. They tell you just get an engineering degree. That's a super specialized. Now, I have no problem with specialists with like neurologists or cardiologists in medicine, for example, but there shouldn't be the vast majority of, let's say, doctors pursuing it. Most of them should have general medical knowledge, but that's not what we're having here. And the problems that you have infrastructurally would be, for example, let's say you're in a town, and I actually have this where I'm from, where the building department only had one person who could sign off, and the person was on vacation. So for 2 weeks or however long that person was gone for, that's the only person who could verify something. You know how terrible that is?
well,
Instead of
it
having
leaves you
multiple
it leaves you
people.
in a bad position. You know what I'm saying? You're talking
Yes,
about having individuals being able to do multiple jobs, right? So,
yes,
well, you get this. In particular in, what I'm saying, like state work with the thing, with what you're talking about, where
Yes.
you have a union mentality and people don't understand what unions used to be like, right?
Yes.
When I was working at the mill, it used to be that back in the day, and like they'd come over because like you'd have to do like a lot of the work on your machine yourself. Like we had what were known as millwrights, which were guys who would come through and fix stuff if something broke, whatever. But if you had some minor stuff, like you do it yourself. And these millwrights, they used to, and they'd come over like, they said, back in the day, if you would have picked up a wrench as a regular, operator, you would have got fucking punched in the face and beaten by the millwrights because you were literally taking work out of their mouth, right?
Right.
And the state still has this mentality.
Of course. It's the
Right.
one who invents the mentality, honestly.
Well, no, because the state is the only one who still has real unions.
Well, I wouldn't even say those were I say those unions became cartels. They were no longer unions. And what I mean by unions is a collective representation of the workers, of the laborers. They're no longer unions. They don't represent shit. They represent entities of themselves. Um, Police unions act like this, teacher unions. This is why you get static from a lot of people who are pro freedom, because these are no longer unions. When unions were unions, they were hated by the state. They called it socialist, they call it communist, et cetera, whatever your views on those things are. They hated them. So why the hell would they accept them? Oh, wait, we take the power away from the mob. We take the power away from the worker and put it towards the state. Oh, now it's fine. All of them, if you notice, are in bed with the state. All of them.
Right. I mean, like, the unions back in the day were different animals than they are today, right? And
Right.
I explain this to people and I go, well, the unions today are used to actually keep down the wages of workers,
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
right? Like you have
You get
unions
a
at
15
places.
cent increase.
Well,
That
no,
ain't
no. Like
shit.
you have unions like at UPS, right?
Right.
United Parcel Service, right? Which is the union. They're run by the Teamsters, but they're some of the lowest paid individuals in the entire fucking shipping industry,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're like, oh man, but if you stay there, 30 years, da da da, you get like a pension and all these type of things. And I'm like, well, like, but the truth is that they're part of the corporate management structure to keep wages low instead of actually, representing the workers. There's a reason why like those workers, they have 100% turnover rate. And if you go into these fucking warehouse facilities or these shipping facilities, you'll see guys walking. They look like goddamn fucking chimpanzees, right? With busted fucking shoulders and shit. Like they're fucking walking around crooked and fucked up. And the union ain't protecting them in any way, shape, or form. They're not a union
Grocery
as per se.
stores and stock. Grocery stores with stock do that shit. Most jobs, either that or you'll have the exact opposite, where you'll have these cushy union, let's say construction jobs, right? It's a scam because where I'm from, you got the job, companies, usually small companies, got the jobs. We got it done within a timely manner and we kept it moving because it was profitable. What these unions lobby for, right? And you hear that word lobby, is like governmental contracts, right? Just same way with defense contracts. And they will hire a number of people and they'll have these cushy jobs. Even if someone's just holding a sign, they'll be being paid like 75,000 a year, right? To do literally nothing a lot of times. And they will halt the process of building, right? When that could have went to a regular company and paid 5 dudes who are trying to feed their families. Feel me? That's the kind of shit that we're dealing with when I mean over specialization and things of that nature.
Well, I feel like, like the over specialization in our society is bred from, well, first off, when we talk about the cathedral, right? You know what the cathedral is, right?
Correct.
Right.
Academia. Absolutely.
Yeah, academia, right? So like when academia is what really runs this country as a whole, because they're the individuals who produce the individuals, right? Who like actually, run things and make the, and set the fucking tone for how things operates inside of our society. So when you have that, you're going to have the places that are creating these specialists are going to be the ones who choose, like what the fucking, like how our society goes. So they're going to make specialization a major part of our society. But on top of that, right, I was actually listening to a video from Thomas Sowell earlier where he was talking about how, like, Germans and individuals in Western Europe, they were piano makers there, they were piano makers here, and they continue to be piano makers. Like, they're individuals who, they study, high science and physics. Austrians, during the Kaiser's age, like, produced the most amount of physics and highly intellectual individuals of any society in the history of mankind. And it's a societal and a cultural thing that moved into this country, and that's something that maybe we should have a conversation about as to if that's the culture, what about everybody else's culture who's here as well? You know what I mean?
This is what happens. People talk about, oh, we're Americans, or people don't understand the issues when you have heterogeneous peoples. And I brought to you before about what I said, the 5 types of peoples: free people, wild people, civilized, isolated, and it slips my mind what I've said the other one. And the reason I also bring up the category or the taxonomy of people is each of these type of mentalities that comes with these people favors one of these kind of things, right? So when you look at the Germans, for example, that you bring up, look at their history, look at the geography, which you bring up. You're into anthropology. I love me some sociology. Geography is a huge thing, right? When it came to your people, the Italians, when it came to the Greeks, groups like that were forced to be more generalists for the longest time. Why? Because you're forced to survive. When you look at a lot of African, like, people try to make fun of quote unquote primitive tribes, right?
Well,
or stuff like that.
hang on. Let's address that point real quick, because Machiavelli actually discussed this in his discourses on Levy. He says that, when you have a society begin, the geography is very determinant of what your society is going to be. You want land that will be fruitful, but is going to force individuals to have to work in order to, make that land into being fruitful. You don't want it to be so fruitful that individuals become lazy, right? And that's the difference, I think. You know what I'm saying? As a whole, you know what I mean?
Where specialization promotes laziness is one of the things. Because look at people in cubicles and office jobs. Some things can be done, and that's good from it, but they don't have a life. They don't live healthy lives. They don't eat healthily, etc., etc. The body is a biomechanical / biochemical machine. I often bring that up. And like any machine, you have to use it, right? You have people paying out.
No. Here's a good way of putting this. Actually, fucking Curtis Yarvin said some shit about this. That's really, really good. He said the human body is basically a robot that becomes better with more use. Right, unlike a robot, in like a mechanical age or a mechanical way, where, the robot will, become, broken after too much use. Human beings, on the other hand, are robots that require use. You know what I'm saying? And they require decent use. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ever heard, like, Thomas Friedman went to China and he saw the people out there with pickaxes digging ditches and digging like a canal. And he said, why aren't you using steam shovels and stuff? And he said, because the people need jobs. And Thomas Friedman said, well, like, why don't you give them spoons? Right. And the reason is because, like, that's cruel to a human being using a spoon, right? But a pickaxe is like, like proper for like work with a human being. You know what I'm saying? Like, a human being's body will be built with that, and it's more adept to doing work in that manner with those type of tools. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I just wanted to address that point, because that is, that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand.
Oh, you're absolutely correct. And another thing with tools, for those who've never worked in construction, okay, and I've had to do a lot of different jobs, and a lot of times with a lot of different of the wrong tools. And you know what I mean by the wrong tool? There are tools that are meant for specific jobs. If you don't have the right tool for the specific job, it makes life difficult. Well, in the same sense is that machines, and I keep saying this about over specialized And again, I don't have a problem with the specialists. There needs to be specialists, right? But how to put this? Conditions that favor specialization lead to the ruin of a number of things. Because here's the thing, machines should aid, they should enhance humans. They shouldn't take away from things like AI. That's over specialization. That's when systems overstep their boundaries. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have machines. That's not the problem. It's just when you try to make things in replacement of humans, you create other problems. People think, "Oh, well, this will be easier." Yeah, but you create
Well,
massive
well,
unemployment.
that's it's called the resource curse, right? So like when you are able to, you know what I'm saying, stick a tube in the ground and light up all of Venezuela with like fucking 6 people because, you know, because of oil, right? You know what I mean? It ends up having the point of where you have, sure, them 6 people are employed, but everybody else is out of work. You know what I'm saying? So then you end up with a massive socialist state. And then you had the same thing with tech, where like, you know, you have, you know, 12 people are able to create an app and run a, you know what I mean, server farm or whatever it is. And, you know what I mean, the rest of human beings are no longer working, right? That's a resource curse issue is kind of where
What
the
should
mentality is.
happen? What should happen if that resource? Okay, and this is what I mean enhance. Okay, so you, as many people in the field, right? What should happen is they should be able to transfer and translate to other occupations and build other structure. The problem is that you currently have systems in the world that don't allow for that to occur. Even if you look at the Roman Empire with its problems, the Roman Empire understood this concept that I'm talking about. So they're like, okay, we have the machines, you know, to help us build roads and viaducts, et cetera, et cetera. So now we can transfer labor over to something else. You feel me? And they, until what happened? Well, look towards the decline of the Roman Empire. Look at some of the policies that they were doing.
Right. I mean, but like, you know, like the mentality should be that individuals should be used in a manner in which is most befitting to them. Right. Like you can't take away individuals' ability to work, you know, and be productive as human beings because that's really what's important. It's not just about, you know what I mean, like transferring them to something else. Like most human, like, you know, human beings, you know, like should be, you know, making shoes and shit, or should be like making shirts, or should be, you know what I mean, doing actual labor, you know what I mean, that produces a good, you know what I mean, like artisanry is something I think that's lost when we have the machines to build things that, you know, and like sew up, you know, be able to stand here and stamp out shoes or stamp out, you know what I mean, fucking shirts or stamp out tools or whatever the case is. Like you should have people who are artisans who make these type of things, who can take pride in that and have that be part of your culture and your civilization. And I think we lost that.
Part of it is not just the loss of community, as you bring up, it's the loss, and this is why I talk about the mindset, right? So when you only value cheap goods, when you make things, and it's not just cheap goods, it seeks into people's psyche that even people become disposable. It's like men in general, societies view that men are disposable. Women have inherent value because they can have children. But men still had value in the past, right? Since I know you have a large male audience, they got to understand this. So in the past, from the hunter-gatherer societies, men went out and hunted, right? They were involved in the military. You know, they were carpenters, they were masons, they were lumberjacks, they were whatever, right? Or men went out and sailed. A lot of young men who seem to be problem children in the society would be gone from domestic. They weren't built for domestication. A lot of men aren't. They never were. The problem is when you try to domesticate men, you produce other problems that we see in today's society. And so now when you have these civilizations become unnatural, like you said, they put men out of work. So what are these young men supposed to do who are able-bodied? Well, then you produce a criminal element. Over specialization inherently produces a criminal element because most men are problem solving oriented. Guys like myself, who you can say are highly intelligent individuals, still like to work with our hands to a degree. And when you eliminate all that manual labor, all that creative and critical and constructive work, where men actually feel good about themselves, Now men are purposeless. You see a rise in depression. You see a rise in suicide rates. You see a rise in involuntary homelessness. When you tailor a society towards gynocentrism or women, now what do men do? These are questions that nobody
Like
wants to talk about.
here's the thing, right? Like, men's rewards for going out and doing that labor, and being able to provide for their families and things of this nature, like their reward was authority, right? It's authority over your household. It's respect in your household. It's respect and authority in your community, and that has been stripped away from men, like as a whole. And that's right. And then on top of that, there's a secondary part of this where, I like we're not. So do you know the difference between modernism and what I'm saying, postmodernism? Like the reasons why it happened.
Yes. The reasons, are you okay? When do you think the postmodernists, because everybody disagrees on this one, when do you think the postmodernist era began?
Well, no.
Postmodernist.
Very easy to understand. Like when
Okay.
postmodernism began, right? Right. It was like June 5th, 1945 is when postmodernism began.
Oh, you put it as early as 45? Interesting.
Right. June 5th, 1945. Right. It's really easy. That's a very simple thing to understand, and that's the day that we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima.
That wasn't June 5th.
All right. What was it?
Was it?
Anyway?
I thought that was August.
I thought it was June. I don't know. It might have been. It might have been
Pretty
August.
sure it was
It might have been
August.
August. I don't know. But like it's like that's the day. The day that we dropped the first nuclear bomb is the day that postmodernism began. Right. Because
You might be
modernism.
right. I might be thinking of the second one. I'd have to go back
I
and
don't.
look.
I don't. I
It's
don't
been a
know.
while.
I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
absolutely sure, to be honest with you. I'm not positive, but I wanted to sound smart. It is what it is. Trying to get on your level, nigga.
So dropping and entering into the nuclear, because I was you're getting to the 60s, 70s, but why would you say it was after the nuclear?
All right. So the reason why men had the right to have the democratic vote in like any country, right? The reasons why is a very simple reason. It's because of the fact that men go and die in wars. Like, yes, you're expendable. You know what I'm saying? But on the same point, you get to choose who it is sends you to go to war, right? And once we stood here and have the ability to destroy an entire civilization with one fucking bomb, with one pilot, one bomb, and a bunch of scientists back at base, making that weapon, like men have become so disposable that they're no longer even needed as soldiers. Right? That's when postmodernism began. So because modernism was the thought that if you work hard and you stand here and you put your effort towards something, you will find some type of enlightenment in the end of it, right? Postmodernism is that anything at any given time is enlightenment because of the fact that nothing matters because men no longer matter. Right.
I
And
would say I would still hold that to be the 70s. I would still make the argument for the 70s.
well, no, it started in 1945 with the nuclear bomb.
Here's why I would still argue against that point. Because of the post-war era became as the middle class. I would argue that.
Because of the post-war era became the middle class. What?
All the from the GI Bill and all the industry that came out of World War II. Okay. And a lot of what, eventually the baby boomers were accustomed to, all the jobs that you taught out after World War II. By 1970, there were societal and cultural shifts, generational shifts, and things of that nature, and to where the mentality became humanity is more or less disposable. I mean, you had the rise of Roe v. Wade, for example, and other aspects that I could get into, where it was an entire cultural shift.
Like the very beginnings of this was 1945, right? Like this is where postmodernism began, right? And all the
What
schools of
changed besides dropping a bomb?
that's it. That was the big change. We entered the nuclear age. That's what began fucking postmodernism. that's what started all of this, right? It's because of the fact that we've made human beings completely divorced from the purpose of what we were built for. That's it, man. That's the entire premise of fucking postmodernism is that,
And what would you say that humans were inherent?
well, again, we get back to, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do men do? Right? Like, men stand here and they go and hunt and they work and they grind and, you know what I'm saying? They go to war and they protect their families and they're responsible. And therefore, they're supposed to have the authority and have the respect of, you know what I mean, the society as a whole for doing so. And when you have the ability, again, to stand here and just destroy, you know what I mean, an entire civilization with a bomb, and you no longer have to have men fighting on the ground, like, it changes the entire fucking perspective of what your society is. And we never had that conversation. And it created what's known as postmodernism, right? And where there's just live for today. It doesn't really matter. We have to figure out a new mentality of what man is supposed to be. This is where, like, the idea of, like, Nietzsche's Ubermensch and all this fucking bullshit, you know what I mean? And, like, becoming, you know what I mean, like, self-actuated and self-fulfilled and all these things and, you know, like, fucking free love and all this shit. Everything got bred out of this, right? Now, the good times after the post-war were not from, you know what I mean, this is something that, like, aggravates me about, like, fucking the GI bills and all this bullshit. The rest of the world was bombed the fuck out. No manufacturing. Europe, Japan, China, all of it. Everything, every place in the world that had a real manufacturing base got destroyed. And when it did so, it stood here and, you know what I mean, gave America, like, America was the only shop in town. So that's what, like, that giant boom came from. That's why, like, you know, we had all these massive amounts of jobs and, you know what I mean, we're producing the whole world in manufacturing. And then the rest of the world kind of caught up over the past 50 or 60, 70, 80 years at this point after World War II. Yo.
Yeah, I was just listening. Just listen.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of where it's at. You know what I mean? Like, yo, so we had, you know what I mean, the mentality of you no longer need soldiers. You no longer need men. Men's authority was stripped away. And then, you know, you had fucking postmodernism, what we call postmodernism now, is created. And that's where all this shit comes from.
But if you look at the change since you bring about 45, I mean, you can, if you're going to think, you know, take it at and the seeds were set, I would argue then you would have, I mean, you can easily extend things back to around 1850, which a lot of these things come out of. And they link all the way up to that. Because it's, when you start looking at when the first wave of feminism began to talk about, you talk about the theory of evolution, you talk about a lot of these aspects. And you could say industrialization had a part to play in what you're bringing up, because industrialization led to the atomic bomb. And then from your
no,
analysis,
like, yo, industrialization created modernism, right? You know what I mean?
Okay.
And, you know, so, like, industrialization had, for the first time, everybody from the country ended up moving into the cities to, you know what I mean, be able to try and enjoy a better life and have an opportunity to get educated and, you know what I'm saying, make more money, right, without having to work on a farm. And, you know what I mean, that's where communism, socialism, you know, fucking fascism, all this shit came from. It was a backlash to industrialization, right? But, like, ultimately, you know what I mean, the modernist era, like, you can see it with, like, the buildings, you know what I'm saying, where, like, everything starts like a block wide in the bottom and ends up at a point at the top, right? It's modernist architecture where, like, you know, you have this mentality of, you know, if you work hard, in the end of it, it will all come up to, like, the level of where you end up finding enlightenment in whatever it is that you're doing. Right? That's modernist mentality. And that's what got us through, you know what I'm saying, the industrial revolution as a society. But after, you know, I mean, the fucking bomb got dropped, we had a problem of where now men no longer have a purpose, right? And men are society. Women aren't really part of society as a whole. They're the reason that we have society. Like they're what we make society for, right? You know, we make societies to keep women safe and our offspring safe and our houses safe that we fucking, you know, what I mean, great, you know, what I mean, take and, you know, what I mean, like fucking create for ourselves, right? What like society is. Women don't set society. Women live in it and comfort and they fucking take advantage of it, right? So it's a whole different animal altogether that we're talking about with women. But with men, you know, I mean, what happens to men is really what actually makes society into being what it is. And that's why, you know, when something bad happens to us and, you know, I mean, we have these issues, like it's where, you know, I mean, it affects the entire society as a whole. And that's why we're having this conversation right now is because, you know, men have really lost their place in the world. And we're having this conversation of generalism versus specialism. And I fucking completely agree with you because I'm a generalist in the end of the day, right? Like, you know, I can do anything, right? But I'm not really specialized in any real form of anything I do.
Because I'm going to go back to the generalist. How much would you say the Great Depression had to play in this shift? Because if you go back and even the literature, and I mean, you see the rise in fascism, you see the rise of, you know, it was they call them the lost generation, right? Mm-hmm. And to where they didn't know do you think that also played a part in this postmodern?
Well, how long,
where
how
men
long,
didn't know
how
what they were
long,
going to do?
how long did the Great Depression last?
About really 8 years, if we want to be honest. It was right before World War. Like even without World War II, they were about to come out of the Great. It just accelerated.
29 to 40.
Yeah, I say like 30 to 38 because things and again,
Black Friday happened, you know what I'm saying, with the stock market crash in
October 29.
Yeah,
Yes. So that's why I say 30. But you know how yes, technically the first, but you know how shit takes time to reverberate throughout.
Yeah.
And I'm not even just including the United States when it comes to this with the Great Depression.
Oh, yeah,
I'm including
it was a worldwide thing.
Yes. And the reason I said 30, and it just sent, and people just look at the history, it's 30 to 38 coincide with what? The period between the fall of the stock market in October of 29 and World War I officially beginning in 1939.
World War II starting.
I mean, World War II, excuse me. Yes, World War II.
World War I was like
Yeah.
1914?
It was 1914 to 1919.
Yeah.
1918, excuse me.
Well, 1919. It was 1919.
Yeah, yeah, it was 19. I'm a little tired, so.
yeah, I feel you, right.
A little tired.
You know what I mean? But like, you know, it was like, and then World War II started in 39, ended in 45.
Yes.
Right.
So, even though stuff was stockpiling starting in 37, if you're talking about Japanese.
Yeah, but like we have a very hard time dealing with like prosperity, right? Like prosperity for human beings is something that we're not accustomed to, right? It's something that
because it's because this is the problem with prosperity. There are 5 problems with prosperity.
Go ahead, man.
3 of them are good, 2 of them are really bad. So the good ones are, number 1, it provides to where people live affluent and in luxury. The second one is that it provides people with leisure. The third one is that it provides people with less struggle. The fourth one is it provides people not only with leisure, but with. And the fifth one is that wealth for the future generation.
You cut out on the fourth one.
Oh, it provides people with nothing to do. And the fifth one is it provides wealth for the future generation.
Idleness, right? Idleness is terrible for human beings.
Yes.
I feel you, right? I feel where you are, right? So here's the mentality. So I think that our society as a whole, right, has a very hard time dealing with prosperity and good times. And I think any society does, right? It goes back to that Machiavelli thing where, like, your people should always have some type of struggle in order to survive, right? Because human beings don't feel good about themselves unless they're, like accomplishing something, unless they're like, like having to struggle as a whole in some way, right? And we're not struggling anymore. We're not on that level to where, like, we have to defeat nature, or we have to, use our bodies and work hard. Good.
Tom, here's why there's a case, and it's why specialization and pro generalization, right?
Right.
The reason why this happens is because we're seeing humans to do what is not now. Settlement. Now you can say, well, wait, nations, etc. built, right? Then you get into a problem with urbanization. Humans, even look at trade. There are peoples that are nomadic that, people hate on it. They're like, oh, but you're not raising your generations in the same place. How can you say that necessarily is the right way for humans to do? If you go back to the book of Genesis, if you talk about the Bible, be fruitful and multiply, subdue the earth. Are humans supposed to stay for long, long periods of time in the exact same place, sedimentarily?
Oh yeah, you're supposed to stay, you know what I'm saying, for a long, like, and this is where we get down to, you know what I'm saying, like the mentality that I've been looking into this week, which is that, the suburbs are basically a nursery for white people, right? And this is something that I've been running through inside of my head. Like my channel, a lot of it, what it is political cartography, right? It's like understanding the map of our politics and our human civilization, right? That's kind of, I guess that's kind of what anthropology is as a whole, is understanding the map of how things work and why they are the way they are, right? I'm understanding the mountains and the geography and the fucking the topography of all of it, right? So this mentality of the suburbs being a nursery for white people is that white people as a whole, right? In particular, the Germans, the British, the Italians, the Irish, right, are accustomed to living inside of villages, right? And that's how, like, they've been living for, 3,000 years at this point, right? And industrialization and moving to a city was not something that was natural for them. And we have the landmass to be able to allow us to live outside of a city and live in an area where our children can be safe. But it's unnatural because, like, we cut down all the trees, took away all the predators, and got rid of all of, the hardships that would make a child into being a stronger adult, right? And we tried to, like, give them, like, sports and, athletics and things of this nature. But we've moved away from that, most definitely in the past 20 years, 30 years, with video games and having these leisure pursuits that don't breed human beings to be strong, fit, active, pursuing some type of enlightenment with themselves. You know what I'm saying?
We'll say, though, with video games, in defense of video games, they do help with hand-eye coordination.
Yo, shut the fuck up. Shut the
No,
fuck
hold on now. Depends on what type of video game you're talking.
Yo, real shit.
Playing
Look,
Tetris, for
all right,
example.
you will never learn how to fucking swing and hit a goddamn fucking baseball by playing the fucking video game.
Hit a baseball. Okay. Some can argue, is that a beneficial skill or not?
Yeah.
And actually, no. Actually, when I say hand-eye coordination, yeah, actually that did help me hit with. Because when you play certain games, you have to have quick reaction and focus. Call it natural athleticism if you want to, but it did help.
Look, again, like, you're not learning how to use your body and adjust, right? Like the period of, becoming a child and an adolescent and, growing into a mature adult, right? Like, as you go through these processes, you have to learn how to continue to use your body so you become better with it as a whole, right? Like we all know this. Like, yo, you fucking play basketball. I play basketball, right? And like, yo, as you grew older, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, yeah, you got better at basketball, but like there was times where like your shot would have to be adjusted because, you know, your body was growing, your muscles were growing, you know what I mean? And like you were becoming stronger. Like, yo, these are important things to learn, right? Because of the fact that like, yo, we're human beings, right? Naturally, we're supposed to be out here hunting, you know what I mean? Like, and you know, building and things of this nature, and you're never going to be able to do any of this shit, and you're not going to have any confidence in yourself if you never use your fucking body, if all you're doing is sitting down holding a fucking joystick, you know what I mean, and, you know what I mean, like killing fucking zombies.
All you were doing, I didn't say that's all you do, because obviously athlete as well, but of the martial art. I'm just saying, like, the thing that I do not like is when people are all or nothing with shit. It's more, humans are more nuanced and multi. Even some military
Yo,
training for shit.
yo, on your thing, like in your settings, in your like John, for your voice or whatever. Like, yo, I think that because I think what you're doing is you're clipping, like it's not picking up everything you're saying because like it's just not coming through. It's not that you're losing like you know what I mean, your connection. Like I think you're just clipping because like your shit's not set up properly. Like, yo, adjust your shit down so it can catches all your voice all the time because it's cutting out early.
Which setting?
The John on the voice has a little bar there to tell you when it starts to pick up your voice. There's a bar. You can slide it. You can slide it back and forth to the left and the right to adjust your volume, or not to adjust like where it picks up your voice at. Slide it. Yes, slide it to the left a little bit, man.
My volume output?
Yeah.
It's all the way up.
No, it should be to the left.
This?
Like there's a John that should be like in the middle and it has like a bar where it's like yellow and red.
Yellow and red.
Yeah. Green, yellow, red. You know what I mean? It shows like where your voice is actually picked up at.
Does it say is the sensitivity one?
Yeah. Your sensitivity.
It keeps like it'll blink when I speak. It'll blink when I speak.
Yeah, I feel you. Like, yo, slide that bar to the left a little bit.
It's like it's almost as if I don't have any. Oh, audio sensitivity. Okay. So I see. What about now?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay. It was on audio sensitivity. Okay,
yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Feel where I'm at, like, because you were like cutting out, like you would say some shit and then you would, and then, you know what I'm saying?
I hate Discord. I really do.
I love Discord. It's a great tool. I'll be real. It's a great tool.
No, it's shitty with connection and other things. That's the reason I say I can't stand it. But I use it, but I can't stand it.
I feel
shitty.
Because usually your shit's set up pretty well. But anyway. Yeah.
What I would say about generalists, right? Because it's, and again, I mentioned about mentality.
But again, like, yo, I want to get back to this generalist mentality, right? So like, you know, you're never going to have individuals to understand what it is to be a generalist if they sit around all day and play video games and don't have hardships, right? You know what I mean? Because like video games is the number one issue right now today with our young, right? But like, you know, as a whole, like kids aren't getting out in the woods. They're not, you know what I mean, standing here learning how to like negotiate in the water or, you know what I mean, drive a boat or an ATV or, you know what I mean, do any of the things that, you know, or build a fucking house.
I wouldn't say video games though, Tom. It goes far deeper. You know what it honestly is?
Go ahead.
Lack of parents or helicopter parenting. Because there are kids that want to go out and explore in nature, right? What does mommy and daddy say? No, you don't do that. It'll hurt you. Seriously, I've seen it happen. And it's like, and I encourage parents, yo, let the kid be a kid, man. Let them explore. Let them play. That's what they naturally do. All kids want to do that.
I feel you. Right. And I mean, like, I take my kids out and like, I'll be honest with you. My kids have swam in the river far more times than they've ever been in a pool. You know what I mean? And like, it's important that they have these experiences and learn how to use their body. Like, you know, knowing how to, like stand and move around in a current. It's like just some very basic things that any of our ancestors would have known. But kids today have absolutely no idea about these.
And
It's
not only that is they in their play, it's like cubs and puppies, kittens. They play amongst each other. We played amongst each other.
yeah.
Boys and girls develop, and they develop differently, but they develop, right? So boys, male pop things. No adults had to teach us this. We just knew that. And it was just unwritten shit, and we learned how to navigate, we learned how to talk. That's some of the issues that homeschool kids run into, is because unless they have extracurricular activities, they're not socialized. That's one of the only benefits of school, is actual socialization, honestly. In college, that's the main thing I told people I picked up from, is socialization.
Well,
But there's
schools are just a fucking, a giant daycare center for fucking kids. That's what the fuck they are. In the end of the day. And
that, yes, unfortunately.
well, like, nah, that's what they've always been, is a daycare center for fucking kids. Right. And like, I'll be honest with you, by the time a kid's like 14, 15 years old, he should no longer be to fucking school. He should be apprenticing or working or doing something with himself that's fucking productive. Like when I was in school, I used to tell them, like, flat out, I'm like, oh, look, unless you're going to pay me to be here, I'm not coming. Like, this is the dumbest shit ever. I could be earning money right now and taking care of shit and doing things, that are far more productive than sitting in these fucking classrooms. Legitimately.
But you also, and it goes back to what we were talking about, you also probably had opportunities for actual more fulfilling occupations. A lot of dudes do not, honestly.
Well, nah, like, yo, like, gotta remember, I come from a people who, they were, farmers and carpenters and, fucking cooks, and shit of this nature. And like, part of my culture, like a heavy part of my culture, a very, very large part of my culture is the food. Right. And so, like, for me, getting a job at a pizza shop or getting a job at, a restaurant or whatever it is, and like being in the back, fucking doing dishes or cleaning or, fucking even like making food, whatever the case is, that is extremely fulfilling to a motherfucker like me. And I'm able to earn money doing something I enjoy doing. Like, so, that's something that, I wanted to do as a kid rather than be in school. I would have much rather been somewhere making somebody food and being productive and earning a fucking paycheck than for sitting in a goddamn classroom.
I feel it. And that's what I mean by, because if you look at this system, the school system, the college pipeline, et cetera, and it goes towards this over specialization when most people don't go into fields where you need a college degree. So, like you mentioned, for those kids, and I know a lot of dudes like that, right? Who they weren't stupid by any stretch of the imagination. They're just more tactically built. And even some of the chicks, too. It's like, even me who excelled in academia, I wanted to drop out. Because it was like, at a certain point, it's like, why am I here for 8 hours? Yes, I was learning something, sure. But it's like, I mainly only stayed in school to play sports. I'm dead serious.
Like, yo, I went to school to sell weed, right? That was the only reason I would go to fucking school. That was it. That was it. And like, I went there at like 10 o'clock in the morning, hired and fucking giraffe pussy, and I left when my buzz wore off. And like,
You were one of them dudes, and we knew we all had in school at least 1, 2, maybe 3, 4 of them. We knew, and it's like and it's the same thing with chick. We knew the ones. Everybody knew the ones. But yeah, generalist mentality. It's demonized because, for example, right, there is the demonization of the jack of all trades, master of none. Right.
well,
What's wrong with being a jack of all trades?
here's the thing. Like, yo, legitimately, the problem is like on some real shit. All right. The mentality is that they want you into their fucking institutes. They want you indoctrinated. They want your fucking money. They want you there. Right. And that's why it's demonized. Right. The cathedral wants you in the cathedral.
But this goes farther back than even the cathedral, though. This goes back to like Renaissance
No, it
era
doesn't. No, it
to a degree.
doesn't.
What
No, no, it
post-Renaissance?
doesn't.
What
No, it
what what
doesn't. I'm
what
telling
I'm
you, this
talking.
does not go back that far.
No, no, no. What I'm talking about specifically, the jack of all trades, master of none. Okay. Even though there is the polymaths in the Renaissance, man, the mentality that comes from there, post Renaissance, there you do start to see, and it's with the rise of industrialization at the same time, you do start to see to where in France and Britain and in these various Eurocentric nations, to where the specialists began to be lucrative along with the merchant class, the clergy, et cetera, the
Well, yeah,
establishment, if
but
you will.
like here's the thing. What I'm saying is it wasn't all right. So like when I told you about, you know what I'm saying, there was three different people, you know what I'm saying, the metropolitan, you know what I mean, the rural individuals and the deracinated people, right? And the problem is that because the cathedral is running things, right, they're trying to make everybody into being metropolitan, right? Like back in the 1960s, like before, you know what I'm saying, like now in the 1960s, only like 15% of our goddamn fucking our entire society went to college, right? And this is what I'm saying about like specialization was not as big of a problem as it is today, where 60% of us now go to fucking college.
Well, here's one of the, and this is why I said the mentality, right? What were people led to believe? The myths that parents were sold, kids were pushed through, right? Go to college, get a better job. And I stop people right there, right? Because I got hit with this. And I go, wait, time out, wait a minute here. Go to college, get a better job. Does nobody see any problem with that connection? Get a job, not build a business, not get a career that you actually enjoy, that you're actually skilled at, that is actually productive. Like, I can understand going to college to be a lawyer or a doctor, things of that nature. I get that. That makes sense, right? Why am I going to get a fucking poli sci degree? I always rag on poli sci degrees the most
Well, it's the soft
because it's
sciences
stupid.
as a
No,
whole.
no, I appreciate the soft sciences. I love the soft sciences. Poli sci is just
Yo,
bullshit.
but
It
they're all
is,
trash though.
but they're not though. Psychology, understanding psychology is beautiful. It
Yo,
actually is,
yo, but
but it's an
here's what I'm
applicable skill
here's what I'm
that
saying,
you
right?
should.
Like yo, a psychologist as a whole, right, in general, is a completely unnecessary goddamn fucking. Is not is it's unnecessary in your society.
I'm neutral on psychologists themselves, but I feel you.
Right. Like
I'm
humanity,
just talking
like
about
most of the
you.
humanities.
My thing is, you can gain. See, here's the thing. I'm not opposed to college in the classes, right? It's just this mentality that everything can be commoditized, right? Then it goes into the over specialization. People are like, oh, my time is money. That stupid, and I consider that stupid mentality. Not that you shouldn't be compensated for what you do, but being from a community and just growing up, right? My pops had me working and dealt stuff with the. He didn't pay me. You help pops because that's just what you did. You helped dad.
Well, yeah,
It
but
wasn't
like
that you slaved away, but he and alongside the way we began to bond, he built time. But this is the same man that put food on the table, the same man that taught me how to play ball, the same man, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And so I learned skills along the way, kind of like your quote unquote apprenticeship, if you will.
yeah, right. I mean, but like again, we get back to, you know what I'm saying. Like when I was a kid, like yeah, you know, like I want paid for my fucking time, right? Like, and that's something that, you know, I mean, was bred into me as a kid, and that's part of my family. You know, I mean, again, my family culture and heritage and shit is that, like, you know, if you do something for somebody, you're gonna get fucking paid. You know, that's a mentality. Like like if you're gonna be volunteering, that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, you know, help your neighbors and shit. Like I'm gonna help my neighbor fucking fix his shit, and I'm gonna, you know what I mean, probably like I got some old people who live across the street, and I feel bad watching this fucking 80-year-old lady, you know what I mean, pushing a fucking lawnmower or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I feel like, you know what I mean, we should be helping each other in the community as a whole. That's fine. That's volunteerism. But on the same point, I know that, like, you know, I'm going to get it back, right? But as a kid, you know what I'm saying? Like when I went to work with Pops, like
Well,
I
that time
expected to be
we
paid.
got paid in food, which to me as a kid, I like that shit.
I
I ain't give
feel you.
a, like I ain't know no damn money. Just fucking feed me. And them motherfuckers, them country and southern folk, oh, they know how to feed your ass.
But I got paid, you know what I mean? Like, yo, fuck the bullshit. I was expected, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I'd be handed some cash at the end of the day. You know what I mean? That was the mentality, always. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to grind, I'm going to fucking get paid. You know what I mean? It's that simple. You know what I mean? Because, like, my pops did real work. My pops, you know what I mean, wasn't, you know what I'm saying, like nobody, you know what I'm saying? My daddy fucking sat there, you know what I mean, had me on roofs and carrying, you know what I mean, fucking drywall and, you know, fucking baling hay and whatever the case is. Like, I got paid for that shit. Like, fuck the garbage. I wasn't doing it for fucking free.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying do not compensate somebody. That's not what I'm saying. You know, it's just also it's the cultural upbringing because I know that a lot of bosses and managers I work for, they like me with the hard work ethic, and they're like, but you get paid, others want more, and da da da. And I scoff at the shit. I'm like, listen, where I'm from, man, you lucky to get work, honestly. And so even if you're not getting paid, like it's fucking, you at least get work. You at least get to be paid. So a lot of this, honestly, it goes from those who come from more of an affluent, and I don't mean wealthy necessarily, because a lot of wealthy parents have their kids working and busting their ass. It's this affluent mentality, this bourgeoisie mentality, versus people like yourself and myself who might necessarily come from the gutter, all of us, but we come from the struggle, as I like to say, as we like to say down south.
Yeah. And I feel like as a dude, you know what I'm saying, you should be able to fix the things that you own. And it's like, yo, you shouldn't have to call somebody in to work on your house, you know what I mean, or your fucking car. I mean, like, unless, like, you know, it's like super
The
technical and shit.
main reason as to why, because it's like my policy is this: either is it outside of my realm of expertise, or is it too much time? And if the shit's too much time, I'm calling the motherfucker seriously.
Well, like, am I gonna be able to do this without fucking it up? You know what I mean? Like, do I trust myself enough to do some shit?
Exactly.
Right?
That too. I
Now,
don't
like,
really fuck with electricity.
anything,
I don't
anything,
really fuck with that shit.
anything in my house, I can fix. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing in the house that I can't fix. You know what I mean? Including the furnace and all the extra and electrical, all that plumbing, whatever. I can fix anything in the fucking house. Right? With my car, if I had to, like, you know what I mean, like, rebuild the transmission, I'm gonna take that to a shop, son, because I really don't know what the fuck I'm doing. You know what I mean?
That's right. I know that's fucking right. Especially the way that they build cars. They build that shit to where you have to. Seriously. It wasn't like, even my pops talked about it. He had been fixing, and other gentlemen, right, from that era. They had been building, fixing up cars. Now they make it difficult even to get replacement parts. Dude, could go to the junkyard and get a interchangeable part. They don't even do that shit anymore. Trying to some cars you have to go for specific tires, et cetera, et cetera. You know the whole gamut. And this is what I mean with over specialization. People do this to sell a product. They build these products to break down. They make it to where, like, you know how many times I've had to move, or let's say I'm removing a washing machine or stove from something, or you're trying to put something in, right? Jobs that I've done, they cut it just perfectly for that thing to fit. But removing that bitch, oh, they make it to where it don't be removed. Or they make it to where there's a screw in the back that you got to get to undo it. And it's like, how the fuck did they even screw this bitch in? They do this shit intentionally, man, so that they protect their own jobs and their own asses, instead of like cars back in the day where they didn't build a car every year, a model every year. They built it to where this shit would last. They built it out of metal. They built it out of parts that you could, if your shit broke down, you could fix it yourself. Right?
Well, things were much more simplistic, you know what I'm saying, and much easier to work on back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, it was just something that you could do.
Absolutely.
And like,
Look
that's
at the
why
engines.
well, that's why, you know what I'm saying, I buy, you know what I mean, GM vehicles and shit. You know what I mean? Because, like, with almost any of the GM vehicles that I've ever owned, anything from like pre 2010, like, you can pretty much work on almost any of it except the transmission. You know what I mean? And it's fucking simple and it's easy. You know what I mean? Like, Ford and Honda are extremely difficult to fucking work on because, like, they're fucking built, you know what I mean, by engineers and shit, and they redo it every fucking year, and are trying to make it to the point where, like, this, like, you have to take it to the fucking shop to get shit done. You know what I mean?
Not just any shop, their shop.
Oh yeah, you gotta take it to the dealer. You know what I mean? Like I was telling my little brother, he sat there and he called me the other day and he asked me a question about a car. He said, I wanted to ask you because I know you know everything about fucking cars. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, dude, what about this fucking sensor thing this fucking thing that popped up on the fucking dashboard? And I was like, bro, take it to the fucking dealership. You know what I mean? You're legit. Like, yo, because like you're gonna have to have them put it on their fucking machine because like, yo, you can't do it. You don't have that machine and you don't have the ability to fucking diagnose it yourself.
Don't have the tools. And the reason I bring this up is I've talked with you about where the economic issue in the system, this artificial economy, is on life support. The reason I bring all of this up, as we've talked about, right? You brought up about the pension aspect. I come from the sociological aspect where the baby boomer generation, that changed the game, but then they adjusted to the baby boomer generation, those who I say the architects of the system, right? And so no one expected a boom population wise. And then they built a system surrounding that population. Well, now that population's dying off and retiring and dying off. And let's just put my generation, for example. We don't have the numbers for replacement. So I'm hearing older Gen Xers are like, oh, who's going to take care of me? Motherfuckers, y'all don't understand. Y'all didn't have kids. There are no, and they didn't train my generation to do a lot of these tasks.
Let's keep this all the way 100, right? Yo, Generation X, like in the 90s, you know what I mean, legitimately, yo, 40% of all fucking pregnancies ended in doctors assisted abortions.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, yo, so like you killed off all your fucking kids.
Thank you. Just like over in China, where that one child policy, nobody thought that, or to keep the boys, right? So for what women are they going to have babies with? Oh no, we don't think about this. When you try to play God, as I like to say, when you try to play God and say, we're going to socially engineer, there's always going to have ramifications. Some of them foreseen, some of them unforeseen. And the unforeseen ones is, oh, abortion, right. Well, you've built a system on infinite growth, which in of itself is stupid with finite resources, right?
Well, I mean, like here's the problem, right? So, like, we build systems on the premise of this is happening now and has been happening for this long, right? And like for instance, ever since the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution, like basically every 100 years the population has been doubling or whatever it is, or every 50, whatever, right? And like we started this, this, like, what was it? Like this last century off, we had like 3 billion people. And now.
So you're saying the last, 300 years?
If you go 5?
Okay, you want to go back to Renaissance era?
Well, the last 500 years or so, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like
okay, I respect it.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Like you went from what, like 1 billion at like what, the 1700s, the 18th century, to now we're almost 8 billion.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned 300 years. That's 300. There is never, part of the reasons why you didn't have that growth in humanity's history is not only the intermingling in the technology. In warfare, you just had like medical science change everything. It changed everything because children were surviving and mothers were surviving childbirth, and then children were living it closer to adulthood on a larger scale. So that did a lot of that. But then idiots were like, oh, let's abort, let's terminate our offspring. Oh, that's such a genius idea. Said no species ever.
Well, it's that, and then on top of that, like you got to remember, kids on a farm, you know what I'm saying, are basically farm equipment. They're tractors. You know what I'm saying? They're labor.
They're hired hands without having to pay for them.
Yeah, they're help.
Yeah, hired hands without having to pay for them.
But like when you move all those people into a city, right? You know what I mean? That changes the game completely altogether, right? You know what I mean? So like, then now kids are basically like having a Saint Bernard in a 2-bedroom apartment.
It goes deeper because I know you like the economic aspect. Like, I start things with you on the economic aspect because it does proliferate throughout the rest of society, right? So let's take your situation, right? In which again, this again starts in the 18th century. If you take the kids off the farm, you look at Britain and other nations, right? So they go into these towns or these cities, right? Depending on the situation, with no skills but agriculture, right? So what are the jobs you think these people are going to get? Take a guess. There's like three jobs.
It's basically factories, shops, and
Yep.
restaurants.
Well, before restaurants are coming into play, factories are definitely one, right? Prostitution, if we're talking females and some gay dudes, prostitution and just menial labor around whatever you can get, right? Your handyman. We're not talking trades because cities are very, as one who, and you've probably been around, you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll end up getting a protectionism with cities, right? Cities, the reason cities and towns and settlements started is because of trade. And correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but instead of having a bazaar just pop up, well, you can just go to the city and have your goods traded, right? Or you can go to
Well,
town.
almost all cities are like at the base of like a river, or you know what I'm saying, like
Yeah.
an inlet to an
Yes.
ocean, things of this nature. You know what I'm saying? Where
Yes.
like you would have goods
Especially
from,
major cities.
well, almost, yeah, almost every city, right, is like on like a river, fucking like mouth into an ocean somewhere, or like a larger body of water, right, where you could have goods move all around and come from like the countryside, move into the city, and then be traded into the wider world. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it's easy. Not only that is you can just travel and a lot of things. And plus, not only that, since it's on a river, it can actually feed the population,
Yeah,
which is a
I
huge
mean, like
boom
here's
thing.
something that I think I always like Zihan for this because like he comes up with mentalities that other people don't bring up. It costs 1/12 the price to move something on water than it does any other means.
Of course. Because it's a natural, like in the air, fuel, right? On the land, some type of labor. But on the water, that's the fuel. Hell, you can even do it by sail.
Yep.
Why do you think sail ships became such a massive thing, right?
Yeah.
And this is why or you mentioned about war. I know you, I get on you with the joke of the war canoes, but people don't understand evolution of technology, right? A lot of industrialization and it's interesting that you point to because I don't think you're the only one that pointed to postmodernism with the atomic bomb. I always wondered why people point it. That's an interesting perspective that you brought up. Technology in a large ways, because warfare is a form of competition, as you know, right?
Yeah.
Technologies, if you look at it, most of what we have formed is via warfare. If human technologies, look at it, it's warfare. A lot of discoveries happen because of warfare. And so a lot of those quote unquote primitives, and I don't even like the term because it's not adequate. These people evolved differently. They did not. It's like with the Aztecs or the Incans, right? The reason the Europeans developed so much in the way that they did with industrialization is because their asses constantly were conquered and dealing with warfare. So I would hope they got better at warfare.
Well, there's a reason why like the Germans, you know what I'm saying, are like the world's engineers, right? And it's because they're surrounded on all sides by other countries that, you know
Do
what I
they
mean.
have any water in the North Sea?
I think it has like one
I
port,
think.
maybe,
Yeah, I think
right?
they have like the northern coastline, but it's not that big. It's not
Right.
that big.
But like, yeah, like Germany is surrounded on all sides by
Yeah.
countries, you know what I mean, that have conquered it or always, you know what I mean, trying to conquer it,
And
right?
Poland has just been like the go between of armies.
Well,
Like I feel for the
Poland,
Polish people.
Poland is a launching site for every invasion of Russia ever,
Or
right?
or invasion of Europe from
Well, that's
other Germanic tribes.
well, that's that's why, you know what I'm saying. Like Russia, when they what they want to do is like they want to conquer places like fucking Poland because of the fact that like Poland is basically just a piece of flat ground, right? You know what I mean? It's literally like the Midwest of the U.S., and it just leads right into them, and there's no fucking natural borders to stop anybody from going into Russia.
And, oh, wait, when and how did World War II start? The invasion of Poland.
Yep.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Belgium.
such a shocker.
Belgium. You know what I mean? Right? So that's, I mean, there's a lot of parts of that aspect. And I got the fact that you think, I mean, like warfare is a reason why Europeans became, I mean, what
I
they were.
studied a lot of warfare, even though I'm a man of peace. I also, as you can tell, see, living paradox. Life itself is a paradox. You can say, well, if you're a man of peace,
Well,
why would you know? I
well,
take the.
it's
Go
not
ahead.
just, it's not just warfare, right? It's on top of that, it's a massive amounts of different cultures trading, you know what I mean, like technologies and things of this nature. You know what I mean? Over the years. And so like one place develops one thing, one place develops another thing because of the land being different, you know what I mean, and different geographies and topographies and things of this nature, which allows them to be able to stand here and, like fucking like update themselves and, what I mean, become better through, what I mean, technological competition
Tom,
and trade. You know what I mean?
while that is true, how did those civilizations, if you will, formulate? Was it not a lot of times via conquest and settlement?
Well, the reasons why like Europe is because the Romans fucking turned it into Europe. You know what I mean? Like the Romans conquered the fucking Celts, killed everything, killed 2/3 of them, you know what I mean? And then sat there and the rest of them basically adopted all of our practices. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Interesting.
What up?
I mean, that when the Roman Empire fell, that does explain a lot of things in that regard.
Well, no, no, no. I mean,
Um,
like Julius Caesar literally went in there, fucking killed 2/3 of all Celts, and then,
Gaul. In Gaul, yeah.
well, I mean, killed 2/3. They call it the Celtic Holocaust, right? It's legit. Like, they murked out 2/3 of the motherfuckers, and then, I mean, basically the ones who they didn't, I mean, fucking kill, they ended up adopting Roman practices and, grew as a society as a whole off of, I mean, the backs of what we created. You know what I mean? We did the same thing with Carthaginians and, I mean, fucking Greeks.
Yeah. And it's interesting you bring up Caesar, because great warlord, right? Great. But there's a reason he got off because just because you're a great conqueror does not make you a great leader or a great ruler.
Well, Julius Caesar was a great goddamn leader, you know what I mean? But the issue was is that, fucking power is always, what I mean, fucking disputed. You know what I mean? And individuals always want what a motherfucker has. Just tends to be how it works. That's fucking Brutus and Cassius and shit.
Oh yeah, but when I'm saying a great leader or a great ruler, see, there's a difference between leading a group of men on a campaign. I mean, you brought up a Machiavelli with the Art of War, right?
Right.
And wasn't the old general or whatever he was? I forget what his rank was. Like he talked about what I'm talking about, right? Where you know the problem with a standing army, as I like to say, or a professional army, is that all they know is war.
Well, yeah, that's I mean, that's one of the fucking points brought up in fucking the book. He says, like no man can live fucking honestly as a professional soldier.
And I consider guys like Caesar, and I look at Alexander the Great. His soldiers got pissed off and sick and tired. It's like, bro, we've been at campaigns for 10 years. Can we fucking go home? And he
Right.
just wanted to continue the conquest. And he was young as fuck too. I think he died at 32. It's like, bro, at what point enough is enough? Genghis Khan even understood this shit. And you can say, well, but his empire expanded. But Genghis Khan is like, but bruh, I'm not like the way he manufactured his army was ingenious though. It was very ingenious in how he kept the troops, morale up to continue the conquest.
Oh yeah, I mean, they just got like, I mean, a piece of the conquest. Like,
I mean, that'll do it for you too, and especially if you. But again, them folks came from that hunger. The Mongolians didn't come from the easy living on the
have
Mongolian
you have
steppes,
you
right?
have you ever looked at like the fucking geography and climate of Mongolia?
Yes, especially if you're talking the Gobi Desert.
Right? No, just the whole fucking place is
Yeah.
terrible. It's a horrible place to live.
Yes.
It's
That's
literally,
why the
it's like,
motherfuckers are like, nah, bro, we gonna eat today.
yo, it's like living in Alaska.
There are parts of Alaska that are nice.
No, there are not parts of Alaska that are nice.
Yes, there are. There's like forests and shit, Tom.
Okay, listen to me. Listen to me, all right? I'm telling you, there are no parts of Alaska that, like, legitimately me or you would enjoy living in.
See, I can adapt to live anywhere.
Yo, look, it
The
gets
places
fucking,
that I'm
it
not
gets
trying to live though are
fucking
the fucking
cold.
boonies.
It
I done
gets,
told people about that.
it gets fucking cold out that bitch, right? And then it
I
doesn't,
already know that.
it never gets back up to temperature. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, like, you know how, like, we're accustomed to summertime, you know what I mean? It hits like 90, 100 degrees, you know what I mean? And we get our time to, like,
Yeah, I moved that bitch. I moved to where it's mild. Okay, listen. People are like, oh, why'd you move out to Floyd? And then people get a taste. I say, listen, y'all can have all that heat and stuff you want to. Yeah, I get like 3 degrees. I call summertime where I'm from death weather. All right, because literally, AC is not a luxury. It is a fucking necessity where I'm from. Dead serious. You would understand. And a lot of you talk about your weight. A lot of people they talk weight loss. Move down to where I'm from. Tom, I couldn't put on weight as a kid. And I have a naturally high metabolism. I couldn't maintain weight, bro. Seriously. Like it's not I lost weight, but I could never put any really on because it's just that humid. Why do you think Louisiana was like
here. Yo, in the
just
summertime, like, yo, legit, like, this place is covered in water and mountains. It's a fucking heat sink, right? In the summertime, it's like 100 with 100% humidity. And
how the fuck did the founding fathers, and I know they talk about the Constitutional Convention, how the fuck did they wear those clothes in that time?
yo, look,
In that heat?
I am always shocked by motherfuckers that wear suits in the summertime. Like, I have no idea how the fuck they do it.
They
Legit.
get accustomed to that shit.
Like,
Now, the thing that gets me is not even the suit, it's the fucking ties. Like, I would see these presidents and stuff always wearing ties, and I'm like, not me. Hell no. I am not wearing a fucking tie. I'll be the Allen Iverson of presidents, man. Y'all got me fucked up and y'all think I'm coming everywhere in a damn suit. Y'all got me out your damn mind, bro. Oh, you ain't official. I don't give a fuck. You thought this was, bro. I ain't dying of a heat stroke. You
like,
crazy.
let me keep this all the way 100 with you, right? In the end of the day, real shit. Like, I be watching dudes out here, you know what I'm saying, in the summertime, 95 fucking degrees, goddamn hoodie on, right? Anybody with long sleeves in the fucking summertime and it's like 100 degrees with 100% humidity, I'm like, I don't know what part of the world you're from, right?
No, bro. Even where I'm from, they be doing this. Especially a lot of chicks. I be thinking it's like problems with their iron levels or some shit. Chicks will be it's literally 99 with like 100% humidity, and chicks are like, I'm cold. I'm like, how you gonna die? And they don't die. I'm like, but then again, none of them really be outside and they don't fucking sweat. So when you don't sweat, you retain shit.
That's like bitches at the club, right? Yo, they out in the middle of winter and shit with a fucking mini skirt on, and fucking like their whole body exposed.
Bro, when I think it was 2016 when I first moved out here, right? These chicks, now it was 20. I was wearing a jacket. I don't get cold like that, right? It's like 20 degrees out, right? It's 2025, right? So it's cold enough to wear something, right? I got jeans, a jacket. I'm feeling it outside. These chicks who some of them they were big girls, but some of them were these little petite things that like 115 at best, right? 100 pounds. Have these mini skirts up. They're walking here, and I'm like, to me, some of them had the jackets on, but some of them were uncovered. I'm like, y'all know y'all ass is gonna get sick. I find myself sounding like my mom. I'm like, see, being cold ain't sexy. That shit's not cute. Put some fucking clothes on. Put at least some leggings or some shit on like some chicks have. The fuck is wrong with you? Catching hypothermia is not cute.
Oh, I feel you. Right? Like, I don't know how the fuck they do that shit. Like, bitches be outside in the wintertime ridiculous. Cause like, I'll be real, it drops below 50, I put on a coat. Like, that's my mentality.
I feel it. It depends for me how it's feeling. Because sometimes below 50 ain't too bad. Sometimes it's just like how the air is. If it's wetter, it's colder kind of shit. If it's drier, it's usually not too bad.
Well, no. Like when it's wetter, it's not as bad, right? Like fucking if like
Depends on where you live.
right. All right, you got to remember. All right, like I'm in the mountains, so like we get snow, and when it snows, it is nowhere near as bad as when it's just like fucking cold and there's no weather.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like that shit is bone chilling cold. Like it
Sometimes the
hurts.
snow, like, bro, the temp will be like 20 degrees colder technically, but it's like it'll be like 50 and frigid. And I'm like, what is this jacked up shit when it's like 25 out and not cold? I'm like, how does this work?
When it's it'd be like 8 degrees outside with like a wind chill of -20, and you'd be standing there like, bruh, like there's cold, and then there's holy shit, right? Because I can tolerate it when it snows. 'Cause when it snows, it's humid, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a little bit better. You know what I mean? And like the snow kind of
Depends
like
on what type of
stops
snow
shit.
it is. Cause it's that snow, that quick melting snow is the worst. Cause it fucking freezes your fucking feet, man. That's the worst shit, bro. And then your whole body's fucking cold for no reason. And you stomping in like 3-4 inches of snow and shit. You're like, fuck this shit, man. What the fuck am I living
like,
here? You slipping on shit.
Like you get to the point where it's like 1.5 feet, fucking 3 feet of fucking snow and shit, and you're just trudging through it,
I
making
ain't
a
walking
pass.
outside. Fuck this shit, bro. We out.
Like you get to the point where you gotta unbury, you have to unbury your vehicle.
Shit, like people like, oh, but you could live. It's like people kill me with that shit. Like, oh, you could live here, and I'm like, number one, I'm not going to be getting paid more. Number two, why the fuck would I live out there? What is out there for me as a young adult? And number three, and more importantly, I ain't trying to be super hot and super cold. Sorry, I can adapt to pretty much anything, but there's a reason why humans don't really live on Antarctica.
Like, well, Antarctica inhospitable, right? That's like Alaska, like fucking.
So people could,
there's these MGTOW niggas, right? You know what I mean? And they're talking about everybody's needs to move to Alaska, right, and turn it into the patriarchy. And I was like,
okay. Yeah, here, Tom, and this goes into what we're talking about. People think this is off topic. No, all of this is on topic because all of these motherfuckers, it's this like MGTOW dudes, like I listen to stuff. It's like the red pill guys. They also irritate me because I'm not a fan of hypocrisy and cognitive dissonance, right? So on the one hand, you'll have these mouthfuckers be talking about, oh my God, these chicks be hoes and they be sluts and they be for the streets, right? On the other exact same, out of the same dude's mouth, 9 out of 10 times, what do they be talking about? Banging chicks on the reg and dishing them out. Wait a second. How the fuck can you be talking about you don't want a chick for the streets, as you call her, but then be saying pump and dump? Can you make it make sense to me, brother? How does it work? You want a virgin, but then you out here trying to be pump and dump.
Well, like
here's how it makes sense to you.
Here's the mentality, right? Here's the mentality. This is the problem. All right, is that like it's like me. I live by the rules of the game that's been set down, right?
Sure. Okay.
You know what I mean? Right. So like my mentality is that all right, if I have to live by these fucking rules of the game that are set down, I'm gonna live the way I'm gonna live. Like I'm not like I'm gonna accept things for what they are. Like bitches are whores. Right. You know what I mean? And I'm going to bitch about the fact that women are whores. But on the same point, you know what I mean? I'm going to do what it is that I do because I don't have a fucking choice. It's not like I can go out and find new bitches. You know what I mean? Because like, they don't exist.
I'm of different mentality, but I feel where you're coming from. Similar. I'll put it like this. The older I get, like, all right, it's like this, right? When you're younger, right. And if a chick, it's more reason like because I had initially, I'm gonna have V cards, I'm married, boom, 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 right? When you're younger, you can be idyllic. Then I got to like 24 and start really having sex and shit. And people can say, no, I got older. And it's like, as the older I get, the likelihood is she's gonna have kids. The likelihood she's gonna have been in some relationships, even if it's just one or two. Like we have to, as adults, you get older, and you got about a decade on me, right? Right. And so at your age, it's even more so people like, oh, I don't want a chick with baggage. I'm like, bro, I'm not trying to get with a chick that's 18 more than likely. Because why? I need a woman, and I'll say this, I need a woman with life experience. If she has life experience, she's probably going to. I've never been with a virgin, for example. Just never have.
I did when I was
Even
a
when,
kid. When I was young, you know what I mean? When I was like
but
15,
you were
16.
again, you were young.
Yeah.
I was having sex in my 20s. You feel me?
Yeah.
And I never looked past her. My mentality was always, do I get along with them? Do they vibe with me? Now things happen, how shit happens with relationships, and it's usually on them. But again, you're young and you life experience. And the older you get, it's like for men, a lot of women don't because they're not taught this. A lot of men realize this, right? The older we get, the looks don't matter as much. They don't. Does she treat me well? Can I be around her? This is real talk that both men and women talk about. When you, as a man, I'm getting to this point. Now, there are other particulars and things like, does she respect me? Whatever you're for cooking or whatever. But seriously, for men, these are like the three big things. And how big you are with sex is, again, every man's particular, every woman's particular, right? But the looks don't, people, oh, men, no, men are very open-minded. It's women who are a hell of a lot more particular when it comes to age of dudes, the race, et cetera, et cetera. Man, there will be guys, you'll hear, I ain't going to date a chick like this, or I ain't going to date a chick that look like this.
Well, it's the
Who the fuck they end up
80-20.
with?
It's the 80-20 or the 90-10 rule. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like females, like 80% of females want 20% of dudes. You know what I'm saying? Where dudes, it's the opposite. It's like, 80% of dudes will fuck, 90 or 100% of females. Like, it just is what it is, right? Like, even like, you know what I mean? Like the fucking, like the top 10% of dudes.
This is like dudes are like, we're realists, right? We're like, and I get why women are selective to a degree, but it's like dudes are like, it's not just trying to just bust nuts. It's like, bro, I don't know who I'm going to, at me as a dude. Just because I like a chick doesn't mean she's into me like that or wants that kind of relationship. Or she could be fucking psycho. See, I gotta think like that, right? I ain't trying to get hit on paternity fraud. I ain't trying to get hit on fucking she's gonna have a knife at my fucking throat at 3 a.m. I ain't trying to hit domestic violence. I ain't trying to catch a case.
Well, see, yeah,
that's gonna be a good mom to my kids. Things of that nature.
That's the part that you have to figure out. The most important part is you don't want to catch a case.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So that literally eliminates probably about 50% of females right now for me.
And that'll eliminate about 80% of females for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, well, because you see, this is the difference between you and me, Tom. This is why you say people are scared of your ass. See, Tom, you were too savage. See, here's what, and then this is all love when I say this. You are a warlord mentality. See, you are a Julius Caesar. You are a Patton. Me, I'm a leader, okay, mentality. And it doesn't make either of us wrong, but you got to understand this shit. And you even voiced this. You're like, I'm just trying to spread my seed across the world. Me, I'm like, nah, fuck that shit, bro. There's too many potential bullshit that I'm not trying to deal with.
Well, like, I'm just trying to have a female, what I'm saying, know her place, stay in her position, you know what I mean? And like, move on about my fucking life. Like, home's supposed to be like my spot where I ain't got to worry about bullshit. You know what I mean? I always have to.
I agree. Like, that's what most grown men, that's the thing. And that's why in a lot of these shit, oh my gosh, why would he marry her? Like, it's like, that's why, and this is not every situation, but the proverbial fat chick getting with the guy, because she know how to suck some dick. She know how to not, and this isn't every situation, obviously, but this is how the uglier women, the more average, because we know that the fucking average women don't be about the bullshit half the time. Because a lot of them have actually been forced to actually be realistic and potentially be wife material. But nobody want to talk about that portion.
Well,
right?
My issue comes down to, like, I don't want a female who's going to use the cops to win an argument on a regular basis.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, because I do like a female who will challenge me, you know what I'm saying? And like get in my face about some bullshit. But on the same point,
I want to be called out on my shit.
Like,
that's how I grew up.
Like I like a chick, you know what I mean, who stands up and go, "What the fuck you gonna do?" And I can slam that bitch up against the fucking wall by her neck and tell her this is what the fuck is gonna be. You know what I mean? Because like, that's
You
the
on that?
type of
Y'all on that rough sex shit?
like yo, that's the type of shit that I come from. You know what I mean? Like I come from
Understood.
savages. You know what I mean? Like, these are the women who I grew up around, like a female who had no problem pulling out a baseball bat and swinging at a nigga. You know what I mean? Like my mom used to
Only
hit
queen
us.
motherfuckers.
Yo, my mom used to hit us with like broomsticks and shit. You know what I mean? More than monkeys.
I
All right.
will like since you mentioned mom. You mentioned mom, right?
Yeah.
My mom quiet, and I don't need a woman to be quiet, but my mom quiet. Now let me tell you though, and I've known strong women. Like I've known a lot of strong women in my life, right?
Right.
Very feminine. But people get this twisted. They think doormat. No, 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 no. White, black, brown. It really didn't matter, right? Yellow. I knew a lot of strong women. Now they could be 5'4", 4'11", 5'3", right? Some guys were legitimately scared of them. Why? Because when she talked, she meant business. Especially if you never really hear her talk, or if she used a certain tone. The same thing with men. It's about the confidence. It's about how you portray yourself. So these women were strong, and when they said they meant business, they had a fucking backbone. I need a woman with a fucking backbone.
Oh,
I
I
don't
feel
need her to
you.
be. I don't want no toxic, no abusive, no this domestic violence bullshit. No, but I want a woman who, her and we can have a disagreement, but she's not going to be a fucking frail little princess. You feel me?
Yeah. But on the same
And yeah,
point,
she
like
might get emotional. I might get emotional. We come back. Hey, babe. I'm sorry that. Yeah, it's all good. Just normal shit.
I
We
want
had
a
a disagreement.
female. I want a female. You know what I'm saying? Who knows that like I'm gonna handle my shit. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where it gets down to. I don't want her always second guessing about stuff.
And this again goes into the whole generalist versus specialist, right? So a lot of females have been socially engineered to, because they'll say, "Oh, what do you do for work?" Not everybody asks me. Like people don't ask me that shit. Actually, nobody. I've never had a girlfriend. Typically, I mean, they may have asked eventually what I do for work, but upon meeting or even friends, a lot of times I don't have people ask me what I do. I might offer that I do whatever it is now. I don't have people ask because why? They care more about the character, the intellect, the integrity, et cetera, et cetera. And we just kick it and we cooling, right? That's been throughout my entire life. But a lot of dudes have been wired, and this is where the simp shit comes in. People misuse the term simp, right? So some guys think they're alpha. No, y'all the motherfucking most simp dudes ever, right? So it'll be to where, well, I make all this money, man. I do this, I do that. Bro, that should not validate you and make you feel valuable as a man. Internally, that's where shit matters. You're playing for the external validation. That's the shit that women see. And I've explained this to women how men gauge strength versus how women have been taught to gauge strength. Women, it's external. For men, it's internal. A man to man. How when we spar, whether it be intellectually or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. Men, it's a good day, and you've spoken about this before. It's a good day when it's not violence. It is. If a conflict doesn't rise to violence, for men, we go out, drink a beer, have a good time, talk it over, we're Gucci.
I feel you. Right. All right, yo, look, man. I'll be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? I gotta make some breakfast for my kids. They just got up. You know what I mean? So like, kind of is what it is. Yo, good look for having this conversation with me, my brother. You know what I mean? Yo, are you still doing your channel, man? Are you like putting fucking videos
I
out and
am.
shit?
I've been bummish and not put up content for a lot of reasons. So it is what it is. I will definitely put up more content soon.
Right. I mean, like, yo,
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a link to your channel in the description and shit. You know what I'm saying? So like, motherfuckers can come check your shit out. You know what I mean? I think you need to start doing like some live streams or like, you know what I mean, like cutting some videos like
I've
this.
never known how to do fucking live streaming. Every time there's like some new tech, YouTube changes shit. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I never have. I wish I did. I wish I did.
Like, well,
I'm
like,
talking about
yo, bruh, like,
technology.
bruh, StreamYards is really easy to use. If you have a laptop, it's really fucking simple. You know what I mean?
We'll see.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
not a Luddite, but it's like,
You know what I mean? Like, yo, it's really easy to use, like, legitimately. You know what I mean? Like, yo, you just fucking, you go on, you put your channel in or whatever, you know what I mean? And you link your channel to it, and then you just set it up. You can set up like a fucking, put a picture in, and then, you know what I mean, you hand out the link to motherfuckers, and like, they can come in and have a conversation. We need to start doing some shit on your channel. You know what I mean? Like, instead of like always doing it on mine. Because, like, you know what I mean? Like, fucking, we need to drive some traffic over your neck of the woods.
we'll see. Like I said, mine has been around for years. We'll see. We'll see.
All right, my brother.
I'll see.
But like, yo, thank you very much. You know, everybody, like, share, and subscribe to the motherfucking channel. You know how it works. Hit that Streamlabs, hit that motherfucking Patreon. Now, I mean, hit the T Public. Go buy you a goddamn fucking t-shirt or some shit. You know how the hell it works. Yo, man, good luck, all right?